Hey, we are here with Dr. Tom Pantazes from Westchester University, two-time William & Mary graduate. And he spent the day with us in STLI today talking about cognitive load and multimedia learning and how we can think about what are some of the key principles to make the videos that we create for our students, maybe the slides that we design for our teaching, to make them maximally effective for students, all grounded in cognitive research. And it's been a great day, lots of really good practical tips. So we wanted to have a chance to just chat with Tom to sort of talk about some of those and like what are some of the top tips for faculty when they think about educational media in their courses.
So Tom, it was a really interesting talk today. What is the one thing that you want? What are some things that you want an instructor to take away from this method that you have of showing them kind of how to be most effective in creating videos that are going to be really interesting to their students and really effective in teaching? What are like the 2 or 3 things that you really want to impress on people?
Okay, so 2 or 3. Oh man, how do you boil down 11 principles and all these little tidbits? But I think we can do that. I think for me, one of the things that I see that I think instructors could really put some time and emphasis on just working for that continual improvement is continuing to work on how they use visuals in their presentations and in their videos and trying to keep pushing the visual component, particularly in video. So one of the rules we talked about today, one of the guidelines, formulas, however you want to phrase it, is this idea of one sentence of narration with one image, one picture, one type of change that's going on. I think that really can help as an easy rule of thumb, and it just keeps the flow moving, keeps things fresh. Our brains are so wired to pick up on change and to see, oh, that changed, and that changed, and that changed. It just helps that engagement piece. So that would probably be my number one. And then the second tip, suggestion that I might have is to use some signals, whether that be finger pointing if you're in the video, underlining.
Now, which finger am I pointing?
Left or right, doesn't really matter, just one. One was preferred.
Strong answer, Tom.
Yeah. And the piece for signaling for me that's so interesting is it's really easy to do, like bold something, change the color, use a quick little animation to make something pop out, and yet it's often like we forget.
Isn't that interesting?
It is.
You're willing to put a thesis on a slide with all of the text, but you're not willing to signal a couple of words on a slide, which is a really interesting thing. Yeah. But and signaling, that's.
I think it would be powerful too if there's an effort underway from a lot of people to just make that little extra effort. I think you could see a really impactful impact. Is that impactful?
That's very impactful.
That's a funny way to say that. I think it could have some real impact with students in helping them learn the information that you're passionate about sharing with them.
That makes me think, the idea that signaling is really easy if you think about it.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to do it, really easy, not a big, heavy, lift or a high bar to reach. Something similar that you shared today that just honest to goodness never occurred to me was pre-training. This idea that if you're going to be doing an instructional or an educational video around a concept where 2 or 3 key terms are important, it might be really helpful before the students watch that video for you to introduce and define those terms so that they have that grounding before you jump into, again, super easy. It just literally never occurred to me to do that. I might do that in class in person, but I think I want to get to the story. I want to get into the video. So I love that. Like, it's so simple, so easy.
Well, one of the comments from faculty today was asking about can I bring those terms in at the beginning of the video, and thinking about some of the examples of video I've worked with faculty and the math one I was sharing today. That professor did that. They said, like, here's what a log is. Okay, now we're going to talk about how you do this calculation with them. And that was a really powerful experience to hear that today, to example. And I'm glad to hear, too, how easy it is sometimes to skip over these principles. And just, it's good to be reminded sometimes.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the things are relatively intuitive when you hear them, but they're not necessarily things that you have front of mind when you're creating, especially for somebody like me. I don't love to be on screen. I don't love to be on video. So like I have a little higher anxiety level when I would sit down to do a desk cast video, or even a, some type of video where I'm in a, like doing a talking head kind of video or something like that. So like already my anxiety level is a little higher than it would normally be. So like I'm even less likely to kind of do some of those obvious things unless I have like a checklist, or unless I have some principles in front of me that are simple and easy. Then I imagine that actually lowers my anxiety level.
So like I'm curious in that scenario, do you, like we talked about this today, do you envision a student that you're like thinking about as you're going through the recording process? And do you think that would help you when you sit in front of the camera to be like, I'm thinking about this specific student as I make this recording? And even though you may not say their name, does that process, would that help?
No, it's a good question. It came up when Roy did a vlogging workshop series, probably been a year ago now. And one of the tips with that was we were thinking about, it would be cool if we could set it up so that we would have one or two of our student partners here that you could actually teach to while you're recording the video. Because again, it feels so much more natural. So, but even imagining that student sitting there, I think would probably be helpful, but even better if you actually were able to teach to a student or to another person. But I love that idea of just kind of being cognizant of that, trying to focus on what's important, focus on your why, essentially, which is to help students learn and understand.
Another tip we were talking about today is that I've heard in the past is get a stuffed animal and be like, I am teaching and talking to you, stuffed animal, because you can usually put it in the frame pretty easily on top of your computer or nearby, so you can speak to it. And I thought that can sometimes help with that as well. So
I feel like that means we need a STLI mascot that we could then loan to
how do you
instructors.
STLIize the Griffin?
Yeah.
How do you put him?
Good question.
How do you make him STLI oriented? That would be cool.
It's too late on a Friday to figure that out, Tom.
Oh, I thought you said Steely Eyes, the Griffin. I thought that was the Griffin's name, Steely Eyes.
Oh,
I like that. I like
nice,
Steely Eyes, the Griffin.
Or Steely Dan.
Puff
Steely
the Magic
Dan.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Steely Dan, the
Steely Dan, the Repo Man.
Dan the Steely.
Can you
Yeah,
get
I
like
don't know.
one of those little Griffin stuffed animals and get a like STLI T-shirt for it? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think we need to think bigger, though.
So, Tom, you did such a wonderful presentation today. We really enjoyed it. Is this something that you are taking on the road? Do you do this on a regular basis to kind of talk about this process that you've developed?
So in terms of a workshop like this today, this is actually the first one, so I appreciate that. Thank you. And I have done some conference presentations and shared a little bit. So some of what you've seen has come from that, but it's been fairly localized. And I still have some efforts underway to continue to share some of this and perhaps find some avenues to do some versions and some refinement in some different spaces, because there's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, no, and it's really nice to see it kind of in this present condition, and I'm just curious to know what are your next steps? What are you thinking about next for where you're going with it?
Yeah. Well, for sure, one of the things I'd like to do is collect some more video artifacts from instructors and start to do some more analysis similar to what I did. I felt good about the coding and the analysis that I did as part of the dissertation, but it's your first time doing serious research when you're a doctoral student, and there's definitely things that you go back on and say,
Sure.
I want to make some improvements, some changes. And I think there's a lot that can be determined by doing some more of that analysis. So in terms of like a next research step, that is one I'm definitely interested in. But also just continuing to help instructors make video, right? And looking at all the different ways, and we touched on some different ones, the field video examples, using PowerPoint or Keynote slides to do video. You guys have a light board here, that there's so many options. It can sometimes be a little overwhelming, but.
Yeah. One thing, I wonder, there might be an opportunity for research and practice to intersect in the sense of, as you're collecting artifacts from faculty, to curate collections to illustrate. One of the things I love that you said towards the beginning of our talk was this idea of continuous improvement. Like, we can always get better at this. We can always sort of tweak and get student feedback maybe, and that might help us improve. But it's a process and it's a journey that you're on. So to have sort of some examples from faculty of these different principles in action and where almost align in a trajectory where you can see the amount of text per slide decreasing, or the organization with images improving and stuff.
That brings up a great point too, that this really is a process that it's a journey you're gonna keep being on if you go down this road of doing video development. I certainly was not any good at all when I started, but by doing it and doing it and doing it, you get better. Even just looking at other examples. And I would encourage faculty who are interested in this process to just get started on it. There's no better way than to start making some video and going to a place like STLI and saying, what do y'all think? Or how can you help me here? And just continuing to refine and get better.